Alright, and I think starting. Come on, YouTube. Cool. We are live. Hey everyone, FusionEd coming at you, and let me get the video feed actually open right here. So cool. So this week, going to be building a super exciting Medusa game. So the idea here, and we'll show you guys the preview in just a bit, is basically we're using line of sight. So this was kind of inspired by Sightline.
Yep.
Sightline the chair, which unfortunately I don't have the demo working with the Vive, because otherwise we'd play that later. But the idea being you use what the player can see, and they, based on that, make interactions. So the idea here is obviously Medusa is going to turn you to stone if you look her directly in the eye. So you get a shield, and you're using the mirror to basically detect where she's looking, and then you have a sword that you're going to swipe around with.
We got to do a little bit more of a history lesson there. So I'm a huge fan of like Greek myths and ancient folktales. So the story of Medusa is that there was this like ancient hero. His name was Perseus. He had to go and get the golden fleece, I believe. Yeah. And one of the challenges that he had to face was this Gorgon named Medusa. So she was so ugly and terrifying that anyone that looked her in the eye would be immediately turned to stone. And so Perseus has this problem. What am I going to do? Yeah. Luckily, he's friends with the goddess Athena. I mean, that comes in handy to be friends with a god. And she had the idea, I believe, of giving him a shield that he could use to like look at her reflection and then try to kill her with his sword. So that's what we're going for today. And yeah, it's just a really interesting mechanic. I mean, a lot of times with VR, you see people doing, like, making stuff happen when you look at something. But today we're prototyping, I mean, what if you look at something indirectly, or what if you can't look at something? So that's just a new mechanic that we're trying out.
Yeah, should be a lot of fun, and I'm going to hop in, and he's going to explain more about what's actually going on.
Sure. So what you see here is a completed project. We may or may not be able to get through all of this. You'll see that there's a Medusa head right there. FusionMan has added some particle effects. Looks like he already looked her in the eye, so the game's over. But he can click the touchpad to restart. You can see that in his mirror, Medusa's... well, she just bashed into him. Okay, so he won this time, so you see that Medusa tipped over. And if he looks around...
I just surprise. She keeps slamming into
me. She's being aggressive right now. Oh, but there she is. So he can see her in the mirror. She's moving around randomly. We'll code that up. And once she gets close, he can go for a swipe. I think he missed. Oh no, he got her. He got her. Nice.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So that's what we'll be building out today. And you can extend on this mechanic in lots of ways. The last point that we wanted to bring up. So today we're at SVVR again. We've been here for the last few streams. And if you don't know about SVVR, they're just a really cool Bay Area community that supports a lot of different types of just VR,
including us,
and issues. Yeah, including us. They've given us a home for the last few weeks, so definitely check out SVVR and try to come to some of the meetups that they have. They're once a month, right?
Yeah, so the next one, which I'll be at, is December 16th. So that should be a lot of fun. It's at AMD, which I think will be cool. And so yeah, other than that, I think it's time to get started. Yep. So this week, Hassan here is going to be leading it, and I'm going to be the one in the chat. So it should be super exciting. And to start things off in the chat, what I want to know from you guys is what projects are you working on, and like what's exciting you, and I want to learn more about that. This is the first time I actually get to get involved in the chat, so this should be a lot of fun for me. Yeah. So I'm gonna hop over here, and Hassan's just gonna start.
All right, let's get going. So I'm going to close this project. Again, this is a completed one, and I'm going to show you how you can get started from scratch. So let's close that out. Let me pop open Unity. While I'm doing this, I think that anyone who's been on the stream for the last few weeks, you probably know me, but basically I met Vasant at Stanford when we were both students there. We both got super stoked about VR. And especially like VR in education. So that's really what got us working on projects together, and now we're working on these streams. Alright, so here is our default project. So let's see, I need to import a few things. For those of you who are tuning in for the first time, we're going to be building for the Vive, so one of the first things that we need to do is get the Steam VR plugin from the Asset Store. So pop over to Window, Asset Store, and let's go to Steam VR once this loads up. This is the plugin right here. We're importing. Alright. And again, this will just give us a lot of functionality to start using the Vive pretty much out of the box. Some configuration might be necessary depending on what we're trying to do or if you want to use the buttons. When this settings window pops up, just select accept all, and we're done with that. Now the last thing I wanted to do is actually import an asset package that we already created before the stream. This is essentially just the environment that we're going to be using. I didn't want to build it from scratch because level design can take a long time. So let's see. Import package, and I have it saved on the desktop as Medusa Castle. So what we're using for the environment here is this Medieval Castle Pack Lite. It's from, I guess it's from Sunoa Games, it looks like. But it's a really cool package just because like the environment is pretty awesome. And in it, I created a prefab of a castle scene. So I'm just going to import that here. You see that we have these ramparts and different towers. So I'll center this to 0. And we also want to get SteamVR working, so I'm going to pull in the camera rig prefab to make sure that that is centered pretty well. Oh, it looks like it's above the ground right now. Let me move this castle scene a little bit up. So that should work. Just to double check, I'm going to press play and pop into the Vive. Yep, so you can see that I'm looking around. Oh, it looks like somehow I got teleported to one of the actual walls of the castle. We don't want to be there, so let me see what went wrong on that. Oh, what is this? Oh, it's because there's still a main camera in this scene. So the camera rig has its own cameras for VR, so you won't need the default cameras that come with your Unity scenes. So I'm going to save this scene as Medusa. And now, let's check that this works. Yep, so I'm in the middle of this castle, but it's pretty boring. There's no Medusa right now. So let me actually go ahead and get started with putting that into the castle so we can play this game. So to break this down, essentially we're going to do this in a few different parts. First of all, we're going to get Medusa into the castle, and we're going to use what's called the navigation mesh so that she'll walk around randomly. Then after that, we can deal with like giving our character a sword and a shield. Again, we want the shield to be reflective. And the last part that we'll get to for sure is just like handling, checking if Medusa is within our line of sight, and if our character has died or not. So that's the high-level overview. So what we'll want for this part is first of all to create a navigation mesh. Now for those of you who don't know, that just controls where different agents in our scene can walk around. So to get started with that, if you want to build a navigation mesh, go to Window and select Navigation. You go over to this Bake component. And what we need to do is we need to mark all of the places in our scene that are not going to move. So the stuff that's going to stay static. Once we do that, we can mark the rest of the area as walkable or areas that like a character could move to. So the way we do that is go to wherever your environment is, and you want to mark it all as static. Here I already have it marked as static, but just to show you, if I had this not marked as static, then I think that when I go to navigation and bake, I'm not going to get anything. Like this all looks the same. But if I mark this environmental area as static, now when I go to navigation and click bake, it pops up with this blue area showing where an agent in our scene could walk around. And you can think of an agent as just like the player or an enemy, so we need to add that in. So I need to import our Medusa model. Let me find where that is. So it's on our desktop. So just trying to find where this thing is. Oh, it's here as a, it's not as a package, it's just as a folder. So what I'll do is actually navigate. Let's see where we have our current project saved. What we want to do is move that assets, like the models, into wherever this is. So it's on desktop. Medusa stream. Man, FusionEd, you got a lot of stuff on your desktop.
Oh yeah,
Lots of projects.
Yeah,
Let me.
I mean, if you look here, it's like you got Unreal, you got a bunch of Steam games.
Yeah, I dig it. Everything that I see here looks pretty cool. So we're just gonna put this models into that, like the folder for our project. So it's Medusa stream. I want to go into assets and let's put models in there. So I'm really just copying and pasting it. That works totally fine. You just want to ideally do it without Unity being open. I think that you actually could get away with doing it while Unity's open, but it's not a very good idea because you're going to be loading stuff in on the fly. So now it's importing in these models that we have for this stream, which is the shield that Abdo made, which is really awesome. You'll check it out later. The sword and also the Medusa head. He actually made all of those. The sword we just took off of one of the asset store packages, but the Medusa head and the shield were made by Abdo, and they are pretty cool. You guys will see those. Alright, so let's go ahead and get this Medusa head in here. Wow, it's huge right now. Also the...
Oh yeah. Yeah, like I said, the Medusa should be is a little wonky.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to set up the textures, which is.
Oh, do I just drag them onto it?
Yep.
Okay.
So just go ahead. I think the best way is just click on the model.
And drag them in.
In the inspector.
Oh yeah.
Open up head, and yeah, I would say
okay.
drag everything except metallic. For whatever reason, the metallic is a little wonky, but that's fine.
AO. Where does AO go?
It goes into occlusion.
All right. Oh, ambient occlusion?
Yep.
You said not metallic?
Yeah. I mean, you can try it and see what it looks like.
And heights.
Yep. All the textures you need. It's great.
Huh. It's still not showing up.
And then also fix the normals. Alright, that should help. Oh, yeah, and then the other thing, for whatever reason, the rendering mode is set to transparent. Not that one.
Oh.
The one below it. Change it to opaque. Perfect.
Alright, awesome. So there is a terrifying Medusa. Luckily, we haven't turned to stone. Hopefully you guys are not turned to stone either. But yeah, this thing does look pretty ugly. I mean, ugly in the sense that, like, Abdo did a good job of making it look ugly. It is very well modeled. But Medusa is scary looking. So
and then we should also mention that Abdo made this in an hour and a half this morning, which is just, like, so impressive to me. It's like,
what happened?
Scale?
The scale's huge.
Oh yeah, the scale's huge. Just change it to 555.
555. Okay, yeah, that works pretty well. And we're just gonna drag this to some point.
I mean, yeah, just center it 0, 0.
Yeah. So I'm not gonna quite keep it at 0, 0, 0, just because I want to show you guys that this thing can walk around. So to get back to the point that I was on earlier, we've created this navigation mesh around our scene. If you guys have questions about that, I can go into more detail. Just ask FuseMan in the chat, and we can just dive into that. But essentially, we have this mesh where this thing could walk around. So now we need to make it so that it knows that it's part of, I guess, like following the rules of this navigation mesh. So the first step is to create a nav mesh agent component.
Also, I just want to say, if you have questions that are going on here, put them in the chat. I'll aggregate them, and then we'll block out a time for Hassan to, like, just answer stuff.
Yep. So now we have this nav mesh agent. There's a bunch of configurable properties here. It does a pretty good job, at least online. You can look up some documentation, or if you have questions, let us know. But now what we want to do is actually make this thing move around randomly. What we're going to do is make it move around and essentially walk inside of this circle. So I'm going to create a script called walk inside circle. And we'll do a few things in this so that we can get it to move about randomly. So one of the first things that we're going to want is we want to make sure that whatever game object this is attached to has a component of type navmesh agent, because we're going to be using that very extensively in this script. So if you want to make sure that your script has a component attached to it, just up here before the class definition, just put require component type of, and then inside more parentheses the actual name of that component. So for us it's navmesh agent. So that requires, again, that whatever this is attached to has a navmesh agent, and now we're going to actually store that. So in start, what we'll do is just make agent equal to the navmesh agent component of whatever this is attached to. Alright, so now we have access to that. What we need to do is decide where this agent is going to move in our scene. So I'm going to write a method that returns a vector3. It's called getDestination. And this is just going to return the destination for our this navmesh agent to move to. So what we want to do for Medusa, just for simplicity's sake, is actually keep her at the same level. Like, we don't want to move her up and down because that's just a little too complicated. It's not hard. We could do it later if you guys want. But what we're going to do is move her around just laterally in the scene. So that corresponds to moving around her X and Z coordinates. Now the way that you could figure this out is that if you go into the scene, the best way to remember where these coordinates correspond to is to just look at these arrows on the object itself. So you see that there's a red arrow, green arrow, and a blue arrow, and if you move it in the red direction, you can see in the inspector that the X is changing, the Y is the green, and the blue is the Z. So an easy way that I like to remember this is just remembering the phrase RGB to XYZ. So red goes to X, G goes to Y, and so on. So using that, we can see that if we want to move her in the X and Z, we just have to change the red and the blue. So here, what we'll do is get a random vector representing some XZ coordinate. So I'll call this random XZ equals num dot get inside unit circle. So this is going to get us a random 2D point inside of a unit circle. And we're going to use those as the XZ for our destination. The last thing that we might want to do, so that we can change the size of that circle that we're picking a random destination is declare this public variable that we'll call circle radius.
1 second. Screen seems like it froze. I don't know if that internet's gone.
It's working there.
Let me check on YouTube. Seems like it's going. Chili Willy.
Chili Willy, what's that?
Good question. Hold on.
Maybe it saw Medusa.
It's back. Okay.
It's good?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, so again, we're creating this random point inside the unit circle. If we multiply this by the circle radius, we can make this circle, instead of being unit-sized, a circle with radius equal to circle radius. So now we just need to create the destination that we're going to return. Destination equals new vector3, and we want the X to be equal to our random XZ's X. We want the Y to stay the same, because remember I said that we don't want to move her up and down, so we'll just use transform position.y, And then the part that might be a little bit tricky is that we want the z to be equal to the second component of randomxz, which is going to actually be randomxz's y, because it doesn't really know that we're going to use it for a z. It's just giving us an x and y, and that's how we're using it. So we can return this destination now. So that will tell us where we're going to move this like this game object, but we actually have to go through the process of telling it to move there. We're going to use this function to do that. So we're going to want this coroutine. We'll call this walk cycle, and basically we want this to run repeatedly, so we'll have a while true loop in here. And then what we want to do for the first step is actually get a destination for our navmesh agent. Then what we want to do is set our agent's destination to that destination, and this is actually what's going to make our agent move towards that. Then we need to wait some amount of time before we go through this cycle again. So we can wait for just like, let's say 3 seconds. Again, the reason why we're doing this is that once we tell the agent where to move, we need to actually give it some time to get there. So this should work totally fine. To get it started though, in the start function of this, we actually need to start that coroutine. So now, once we press play, I can't really see in the game view. Looks like, oh, so Medusa is stuck in the middle. The reason why is that circle radius is going to default to 0 in the inspector, so she's moving randomly in the circle with no radius, which is just the middle. Let's give it a radius of 4. So now you'll see that she's moving around randomly. She's not quite facing the correct direction, but she is moving around the scene in this random way, and you see that, like right here, for example, she's avoiding going into this tower because we have it baked into our nav mesh that she can't go inside that. So that's the first part. If anyone has any questions, just let us know and we'll get to them.
You know what you should show them? Because like it was kind of annoying to have Medusa like run into me. Can you add like an occlusion area like right around you, like right in the middle there?
Yeah, so I think that the best way to do it would be to add in a model. Alternatively, we can add.
I think it was an occlusion portal. Was that there's some component, but I can't remember
in
what
navigation?
It is. No, as a component that you would like just like put in the scene.
Let's see.
Or like it might be the same component that you use for the models. I forgot what it was. I haven't touched navigation in such a long time.
I don't think that they require any explicit component. It just like it knows that they're
Let me Google it.
Static areas. I wonder if we mark the camera rig as static and then unmark it. I wonder what that would do.
Camera rig, but I know there's a way to like bake in like occlusion areas. Occlusion. Maybe
that doesn't work.
If someone in the chat remembers before I do, let me know.
Well, there's a few ways. I mean, one thing we could do is change the circle that she's moving around randomly. So, like, for example, if we add a 1, 1, 1 to it, or I guess a 1, 0, 1, then at the very least, every x and z that she's at will be at least 1 away from our player. Like, I feel like that could be a solution. If we don't find an occlusion portal.
Occlusion area. So there's an occlusion portal component. This first portal is open.
Occlusion portal? So you're saying putting that on the camera rig?
Yeah, you can try that.
Okay.
And then mark.
Size it up.
Or maybe make it its own component.
Oh, like on its own game object?
And that might, I think, cut.
Oh, okay. I like that. That's a good idea. So we can just add it into this environment. Create this player portal. So what Vasant is talking about is that one thing that gets kind of annoying in the game is if Medusa like comes straight at you or goes through you. It kind of just like breaks the immersion and it's weird. So let's check if we can get it so that she doesn't come right at you. And we're thinking that this occlusion portal should do the trick.
Hopefully. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
So now that we have that, I guess if we mark this as static and now we bake again. Huh, looks like it didn't change it. Should I not mark it as static?
Or the other thing you can do is try putting a collider on it.
Yeah, that could work.
Yeah.
Scale this thing up. Oh. Hit the caps button. Alright. Mark this as static. It's so odd. Why isn't that working?
I'll Google some more, but you can keep moving on.
Okay.
And then if I see anything.
Yeah, so what I'll do as a solution for it now is actually just in the script, what I'm going to do is add a, I guess like a player offset. So what I'm going to do is just create this 101 vector and add that to the destination so that we change the area of the random space that she could be told to go to. Yeah, so while Vasant is looking that up, we can get started with the next part, which is attaching our, well actually one thing that's annoying right now is she's looking into the ground. So let's fix that first. So I'm going to go ahead and on Medusa head, I don't want to put this inside of the walk inside circle because as much as possible, like we want to encapsulate that as like its own script for anything that wants to walk inside of a circle. But we want Medusa to always be looking at the player. So let's create a different script. This will control Medusa specific behaviors. So we'll call it Medusa.
Nav mesh obstacle, that's what it is.
Mark it as nav mesh? Oh, it's a component?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to get rid of these two.
Yeah. It's like I knew there was a component somewhere.
And nav mesh obstacle. Nice.
Yep. So then I think you can set the shape for that.
Where is it? I'll just scale it up. I can find it.
Maybe go to the baking and see.
Oh, good idea.
I'll just bake it and see what happens.
That baked it. Oh, it's not. It wasn't enabled. My bad.
Fair enough. that might be a little thing. Might have to move it down. I'm not sure.
Still not working. Move it. Oh, into the ground.
Move it down because like it's like right on the edge. Probably the center. Drop it.
Like that?
Yeah. Try that out. I believe.
Oh, dude, it's breaking our heart. It's not working.
Go to the inspect. Is it set to static?
Yep. Yeah. Maybe we shouldn't set a nav mesh obstacle to static.
Oh, hit carve.
If we carve. Oh yeah, nice. Awesome. There we go. Debugged. Yeah, definitely.
It's like I knew there was a component somewhere.
Cool. Alright, so now that we have that, I'm gonna remove the offset that I added inside of this destination. But it's cool. I mean, we came up with two different solutions to that problem. I definitely like this obstacle, this nav mesh obstacle one better. It's nice when you can like solve all the problems related to the nav mesh in the same place rather than like solving that problem in a script somewhere that's not even completely related. So now she won't walk directly into or through our player. But what I was at before is we want to make sure that she's always looking at us. So I've created this Medusa script that's going to control her behavior. So what we want to do is give her basically just like make her look at our player all the time. So the best way to do this is to create a point that represents where our player is and to use transform.lookAt whatever our player's transform is. So we'll call this iTransform, or player eye transform, and this is just going to be a transform that like shows where our players' eyes are. So we'll probably put it on like their forehead or something like that. So this doesn't exist right now. We're actually going to need to make this in our scene. So if we want to get to like where the player's head is and like where they're looking, just open up the camera rig, and camera head is basically representative of like wherever the person with the HMD, like wherever their head is. So in here we'll actually create this object. We'll call this eye position, and we probably want to let's make it. Later on, we're going to need to use this for some of the ray casting that we do for the line of sight stuff, but we'll get to that later. What we want to do is just make sure that this is positioned like a little bit in front of the player. Z is typically the forward direction, so if we want to put this a little bit in front of where the player's eye is, we can just change this to like 0.1. 0.5 is probably too far. Let's just do like 0.2, and like you can debug this later on if you find that those numbers aren't quite right for you. So now let's go to Medusa head. We can give her this eye position as the player eye transform, and when we press play, what we should see is that, well, now she's looking at the ground. Looks like this isn't quite working. So let's see what's going on here. So she's looking at the player's eye transform, but for some reason she's still staring into the ground. So if I pull up the headset, oh, it might be because the player... Oh, this isn't going into the scene. Did this turn off?
Oh, let's take a look at SteamVR. Not Steam. Seems connected.
Yeah, I just can't see the scene in here.
What's the light look like?
Green.
Green.
Just try restarting it.
Oh,
there we go. Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so she's still looking at the ground, which is weird. Not quite sure why that's happening.
Using the lookout function?
Yeah, I think that it might be because the coordinates for the model...
Did you tell it to look at the camera rig?
I told it to look at... It's looking at the eye position. Right there.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's really odd. I think it's like a coordinate issue. Like it's forward.
So what's it?
Yeah, so it is. It's because you see it's like Z is
oh yeah,
towards...
So yeah, you probably want to. I think one thing. So have a game object at the top, and then have the model underneath.
Yeah, good point. That will work. Okay, so the issue that we're running into here, this is actually a really good problem that we're running into, because when you work with like a different 3D modeling application and import like an object into Unity or some other software, sometimes like the coordinates aren't exactly the way that you want them to be. And the way that like we can see that that's happening here is like ideally we would want Medusa's like blue arrow, which like you can see right there, to be pointing like in the direction of her like gaze, like where her face is looking. But right now, like it's just a different coordinate system. It's pointing down instead. So when we use look at on a game object, it points that blue arrow towards whatever we're looking at. So right now it's pointing that blue arrow towards our player, but then we end up having Medusa's neck looking at us instead of her face. So the suggestion that Vasant has that will work is that if we create this game object, you see that it has the right, like the coordinate system that we would expect, which is that instead of pointing down, the blue arrow is like pointing laterally. And we can make Medusa a child of this and have this game object point towards where we want it to look. So let me just fix this. So we have this game object. We'll call it Medusa master. Put this in that, and we'll actually take out, we'll move walk inside circle and pretty much all of these scripts, we'll want to move them to the parent rather than to this model. So we can copy this component, go over to Medusa master. Well, we'll just add in that mesh agent. Remove this. The script depends on it. So we need to remove this first. I'll copy this over to the master. Do the same thing for look at. And then we can remove all of these. So now this is our new like nav mesh. The one thing that we'll want to change is we should make this like collider zone of the nav mesh agent smaller so that it replicates the area of this Medusa head. And we'll also want to bring the head up more. So have it like right there is probably a good amount. And actually the collider is not perfect, but that should get the job done. If we find that it's a problem later, we can switch it around, but I think that that'll work, at least for a prototype. Yeah, so now let's see what happens when we press play. Yeah, so Medusa is looking at us now. So you'll see one weird thing happening, which is that like she's kind of tilting a little bit. And to stop that, we want to just modify the look at function that we have. So especially like that, like we don't want her to be tilting her head up or down as she's moving. And that's actually a pretty easy fix. So to do that, we're just going to have her look at the X, like in the X and Z direction towards the player. Or actually, I guess a better way to explain this is when we do look at, we're kind of like changing the rotation of the game object. What we want to do is make it so that she only rotates in the Y, so that she can look laterally, but she's not tilting her head up and down. So the best way to do that is to just tell her to look at something, but keep the Y look at constant. So instead of having her look at the player eyes transform, we can create a vector 3 that has the player eye transforms X, a constant Y, which we can pick. I guess what we could do is, I mean, we can just use this transforms Y so that she's like stuck at the same level. And then the player eye transforms Z. So the bug here is that you have to access the position component from the transform. So we want her to look at that. So again, what's going on here is we're keeping the Y that she's looking at constant. How are we doing on questions?
We're just kind of talking about just VR stuff in general.
Okay, cool.
There's been a few people who are like, yes, this is what I wanna this is what I wanna see, because they're working on similar projects.
Oh, cool, nice.
So
well, yeah. So now we have that all debugged and ready to go. You see that she's not tilting the way that she's looking around. So what we'll go ahead and add now is our sword and shield, and then after that we'll get into the ray casting and line of sight part. So that was a lot of stuff, and we actually ran into some pretty like cool and interesting bugs that come up in a lot of projects. So if you have any questions, just shoot them to us in the chat. So now let's get started with adding the sword and shield. So we're going to just add this to the left and right hand. In some of the other streams you can look over like how you can actually reach out and grab objects, but just for the sake of getting done with this prototype and like being able to add stuff later, we're going to add these models directly to the hands. So let's check out these models that we got. The first one that we're going to want to use is the shield.
Abdul says, thanks for fixing Medusa.
Thanks for the Medusa. The thing looks great. So let's see. Here's the shield. I have to put the textures on it, probably. So I'm going to put the shield on the left hand, just because I'm right-handed. But you guys could pick it like whatever you want for yourself.
Yeah, and I mean, we also have that tutorial from a few weeks, months ago, I can't remember, where we showed how to like swap it. So that could be something that could always be added later.
So, let's see. Okay, so the rotation is a little off. Actually, I kind of like it this way. I don't know, how should we orient this? So this is basically like, I would have to hold it like that to see, which I actually kind of like.
Oh, interesting.
Like, it's not at the tip of the controller. It's like basically here. Actually,
so like what I ended up doing when we prototyped it was I held it like this towards you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's do that then.
I don't know what the right way to hold this is.
So we have to rotate this thing.
But that's generally what I like. It works, but like definitely.
What rotation do we want then? 0?
I ended up using, I think, 0 or like 180, or one of those two.
Oh yeah, that works. So you could use it like this, or I guess Hassan, you said,
yeah,
you used it like that. Okay, cool.
Hold on.
Yeah, so I mean, you can just adjust the rotation on this depending on how you want to grip the controller.
I'm a hijack it right now.
Do it.
Let's see. Medusa, it was and Perseus?
Yeah.
Perseus?
Yeah, so the story is that he cut off her head and kept it.
Great picture somewhere.
So that he could use it to turn other people to stone.
Just so barbaric.
He's friends with gods. He has mirror shields and Medusa's head.
I don't see that. I found this like really awesome picture where it's like he's holding it like back like this, and he's like stepping back,
right,
and then tries to cut it. I can't find it.
It's a Perseus.
Maybe with the shield.
Shield.
Yeah, this one. Yeah, so this is like how he was like with the 5 controls.
Our Medusa looks way better.
It was just like
Medusa.
Medusa's back there. It's like swoop, swoop, swoop.
Alright, so we have that. One thing that you'll notice is that our shield isn't quite reflecting the way that we would like it to. And that's because we need to attach something to it called a reflection probe. Right now, like when I look at it, I can't really see Medusa in there. And so we need to add in a reflection probe, which essentially just like does some optimizations to figure out how reflective materials, like what they should actually be reflecting off of them. So let's go ahead and add one of those to our shield. So to do that, go into Shield, Light, and pick Reflection Probe. We played around a bit to figure out what would work best here. We found that it would work well if you change resolution to 256. We turned off HDR. We changed shadow distance to 10.
Yeah. I mean, a bunch of these were like optimizations just to make it feel a little more natural.
Yeah.
I dropped far down to 100.
Yeah, we don't have a huge scene. The other thing is that usually, like, sometimes you can get away with like baked reflection probe, sort of in the same way that you get away with baking lights. But since Medusa's moving around, we need to use a real-time reflection probe. And for refresh mode, we found that every frame is important since she's moving around.
Yeah, and in general, I don't think I would recommend this this approach. Yes.
Yeah.
Now you're gonna have to do one more thing.
Did we change anything else on this? I don't remember any other changes.
Go to Edit, Quality, Project Settings.
Quality?
Yeah, Quality, and Oh yeah, real-time reflections on. Okay.
Okay,
So yeah,
cool.
that
So
needs to
make
be
sure. Oh, this may have been what I was missing when I tried it. Yeah, so make sure that this is also marked on. So let's see what happens now. It's there.
It's a little dull.
Well, it might be because the lights aren't baked.
Or they are baked?
No, I think it might be because they're not, and maybe they're not bouncing correctly. But you still can kind of see.
You can. Did you add the metallic to the shield?
Did I think I may have upped the like how metallic it is.
Oh, I see. Okay.
When I imported it, though, it might not have
So if we go to
had
the
all
shield,
over the.
yeah. So we're gonna fill that up. Well, I'll eat
the
that.
textures missing.
The textures are somewhere. I don't remember.
Medusa textures. Oh yeah, there we go.
Or not those. The shield ones.
Oh yeah. Shield. So focused on Medusa.
Medusa's great.
Yeah. It just all looks so good. Shield.
Shield textures. Yep.
Shield metallic.
Oh yeah, there was no metallic there before.
Yeah.
I'll explain it.
Do we have to include any of these other ones, or are
yeah.
they there?
Just to hide in the AO. Right. Sweet.
Alright, let's check this out.
Oh yeah.
Oh, look at it already. Oh yes, beautiful. Look at that. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
Abdo,
the shield is the bomb.com.
Yeah.
Like it's.
This is so cool. Also, like, look, guys, just like pause and appreciate like the little like divots that he put on this thing.
Yeah. There's a lot of good detail. Abdo, how long did it take you to build this again? I don't remember. But you spent a while on it, and it looks great.
Yeah, this is really well done. So yeah, that's the first part. We need a sword now. So let's see. I actually don't think that I have the sword in this models folder. Let me see if I can find it easily on the desktop. If I go into... So I'm just grabbing a sword right now that we can use from one of our past projects. Yeah, I will go ahead and copy this over. Again, I'm going to close this out. Medusa stream. So this DLNK, it's just this package that we got off of the asset store with some swords in it. I think one simple sword. So let's open up our project again. How are we doing on the chat? What are we talking about?
We are well, we just started talking about Abdel's shield and it's the bomb.
It totally is. I have a question. What's like everybody's favorite Greek myths? Does anyone even care about Greek myths? Am I just like the only person?
Everyone does. Please.
So I have this simple sword prefab. Abdo didn't make this one. I'm sure that if he was to make us a sword, it would have looked awesome. This one looks pretty good, gets the job done. So we have to scale it down. Probably want this thing to be maybe a bit bigger. I guess that works. So let's also put this on the, let's put it on the right hand. And again, that's just because I'm right-handed. So which hand is this in? This one there, right? So definitely holding the blade right now, that's not advised. So let's go ahead and change this up.
What in the world? That rotation though.
Yeah, I had to re-import the sword, so I have to check the right way to orient it. Let me move. So now that I've separated the sword and shield in the game view, I can just come into the scene view and actually look at like what rotation and position we want. So I'm guessing that this is 90, nope, negative 90 around the y-axis. I want to bump this up, like forward a bit too. So it looks like 0.7 works pretty well. 6, yeah, 6 is good. So once we've like edited these values to be what we want in play mode, we can just like copy the values, exit, and paste. So now, let me go into here. Yeah, this, yeah, pretty good length, probably a little bit long, but we have it oriented the way that we want.
Nice.
Alright, cool. So we have the shield working, we have the sword. Next is really just like the gaze component. I don't know if you want to take a break or talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can take a break now. I think, yeah, it's about an hour and it's like 10:50. So, yeah, we'll take a break now. If people have questions or / want to catch up, we can do that. And other than that, let's just... What are you feeling?
Dude, I'm always feeling the lab.
Alright, lab. Dude, this guy's a boss at the lab.
Well, we have a running competition. I set a high score, and then, like, I think a little while after, FusionEd beat it. But little did he know that I had played on my own and beat my own high score before. So now we're just seeing who can get to the top score.
Yeah,
I think it goes up to like 50 waves? Or is it
No,
endless?
it's endless.
Oh wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. It's, yeah, all of the waves are random, so sometimes you get lucky and get a really easy wave at the end.
Yeah.
Like on my run that beat your
random?
Yeah, they're
Really?
random.
Whoa.
On my score that beat your run, I messed up and I triggered the gas thing at the very end of a wave.
Yeah.
I was like, no.
One time I shot one of the health arrows, like to get
yeah.
but then it went through and it hit the target.
It's the worst.
Oh dude, it hit the target, the people caught on fire, and both of them ran into both of the barrels. So I lost all 3 in one wave.
Alright, go ham.
Alright, dude. Let's do this.
Also, let me know, have any of you guys tried Daydream? I just got to try it out yesterday. Yeah, it was yesterday. Wow.
Oh, you tried it?
Yeah. You'd actually got a pair, and I was like, what? This thing is like pretty sick. Oh, also you're gonna want headphones. So let me plug you in.
Plug me in.
Get you like fully jacked into the Matrix.
We might have to stop early.
You go ham. Like, yeah. I'm gonna check the chat. But yeah, let me know if you've tried Daydream before, cause yeah. Daydream. The only thing it's lacking right now is content.
Is your computer plugged in?
Yeah, should be.
Oh, okay.
It's my laptop runs at a it's not a 1060, it's a 970.
No, it's working fine now.
Oh yeah.
It was a bit choppy though. I mean, it's also like streaming right now, running this. Unity's open. Definitely pushing it to the limit. Where am I in the real world? Okay.
Oh yeah, well, you got teleportation, you're fine. Yeah, Hassan is just like, I just need to finish everyone really fast.
Yeah. I don't really care about the
You don't care about the balloons at all. You're just like, die right now. Dude, you gotta warm up. There we go.
Oh. Oh, dude, so this is not good so far.
Oh, you're 5 out. Not good so far, and you're at 5 out of 8. Please. Those guys. It's so weird because the helmet shield guys, they show up in the first 8 waves, and then they don't show up until like wave 24.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I know why. I mean, the reason is because of the way Valve updated. They kept the first 8 waves the same. And then they're like, oh, we need to make an endless version.
How much time do we have left?
Keep going, dude. I mean, well, when did we start? That's not even 11.
Oh, I'll get to 11. Oh, it's not even 11.
Yeah. Quote of the day.
For the record, my gate has not been touched.
Really?
But
Well, I mean, it's only
on
wave
10.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, well, the gate should really only get touched after wave 24. Beast mode. Oh yeah, that's easy. Looks like, yeah, they're just gonna come up in a line.
Like walk into the arrow, pretty much.
I mean, what I wish for is like there was like a piercing mode, like
Oh, that'd be cool.
it just goes swoop right through them. Damn, you are going ham. You're going more than ham. You can tell by the fact that he's being quiet, he's in the zone.
Yeah.
He's like he has reached Zen. He's reached the VR state of Zen. That's how. It's like one shot KOs all day, every day. We were playing last weekend, I think. Yeah, we were playing last weekend, and we were just like the guys with the helmets and shield, you were just like right through the neck where just one hit KOs. Yeah. Boom, boom, boom. I was like, what?
Figure out how to do those like reliably.
Like, but you did it like pretty often during that. I was like, what in the world? I was like, what is going on here?
Oh, wait,
16 out of 16. Alright, let's see. We get to do this wave and then go up to 24 and then we can probably get back to it. Yeah. But okay, here's the challenge. Actually, no. Keep going until one person touches the gate.
Oh, what? Oh, that's so intense, dude.
It's like, no one can touch the gate. Uh-oh. There you go. Alright. you didn't even let him come by. You were just like...
I don't got no time for that. I got a stream to get to.
Alright. One shot and you're done. This is actually pretty intense now.
Yeah, this is like completely different.
Uh-oh.
It's not gonna be this way.
Yeah, no, I think you're fine. Unless you like really goof it. Like, why not? What is this wave? 18, 19. I was pretty solid though. Wave 19 without them touching. I like constantly rely on the balloons. I'm just like...
Dude, definitely getting more intense.
Arms getting tired?
No.
But that's like one of the things though, like as a design, like for the Vive especially, it's like how do you like design cool experiences without getting people tired? And you can't like with Arch, I mean, well, I don't know. I have like mixed feelings about it. It's like you can like last for I don't know how long like 15 minutes and then you're just like done. I mean for them it's like as long as it's cool, right? They're doing their mad hops. Uh-oh, this might be the one. No. Please, you're like, please. But yeah, they definitely have to think about that a little bit.
Not when they're all coming from the same direction. It's gonna happen when someone comes on the bridge.
Oh. Like now. Basically, whenever the helmet dudes... They're getting antsy. Might be not.
Dude, we might just have to cap it.
Yeah, well, if you get to 24, well, GG. That's all I can say to that. It's like, you are just going over him. "24 is usually when I die, but... Or not die, but like, get something to hit me. Because it goes from like 23 is like easy and then just like what? I haven't even used a single thing. Uh-oh. 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 Ooh. Nice. What a guy.
Back to the stream?
Yeah, back to the stream. let's hop you out of the matrix.
That was fun.
GG. Good game.
I like that added constraint of no touches.
It's like,
yeah, stretch.
It's like
rest my hands so that they can type.
It's like, am I in reality now? Or like, what is this? What is this nonsense? Nice, dude.
How's everything going in the chat?
It's been going good. We've had, what have we talked about? God. We've talked about Apple, we've talked about Daydream, we've talked about how long like good like VR experiences are, like what's that definition of quality. We talked about Medusa rolling in that mud. Because when you first had the look at like facing the ground.
Looking into the ground.
That was great, by the way. Cool. Yeah. I don't think I saw any specific questions, but definitely if you do have anything like, this is one of the things about being a live stream, right? Is like we can talk about cool stuff. We can also talk about anything really. So
yeah, for sure.
But I think other than that, we can just kind of dive into what was like making sure you actually are looking at it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is the part that everyone has been waiting for, which is how can we do this gaze detection. We'll get through that for sure, and then depending on how much time we have left, like we can just add some extensions, try to make it into more of a game.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's see. Just as like a refresher for what we had last time, Medusa should be moving around. Take out these headphones. So Medusa's moving, and we have this reflective shield, really awesome. The sword configured pretty well. We're not hitting her quite yet, but let's go ahead and add that. So to make it so that the sword can hit her, she, I believe, already has a collider on her, but essentially like to make two objects be able to hit in Unity, they both need to have colliders on them, or at least that's the easiest way to do things. Looks like she does not have a collider. This box is her nav mesh agent zone. That's not the same as her collider. So let's go ahead and add a collider to this. We'll just do a simple, I guess a box collider will work, again, just because this is a prototype. So it's at the base of our game object, so we'll want to move it up so that it corresponds to where the head actually is. So let's move it up one. That's actually a good distance. We might want to make it a little bit bigger. Not in the X, but in the Z direction. And then I'll move it forward just a bit. Yeah, so that should work. For Medusa's collision zone. Usually for a player you actually want to use a capsule, but this should be fine just for the purposes of the stream and prototyping. So next we want to make sure that there's a collider on our sword. So let's add it for the blade portion. Here a box collider actually works really well because the sword is actually already like box shaped. So we just need to move that collider up, and you can change the collider by clicking Edit Collider, and then you can see that it has these like dots that you can click and drag. So that's pretty much the blade portion, so that looks good. Now if we pop into VR, we should be able to make contact with her. Find where the sword is. Sword. Oh, I'm not hitting her right now. Oh, it's because in addition to having colliders, the objects also need to have rigid bodies on them. The reason for that is that when we're doing collisions, I mean, we want to have like physics simulations, and to actually do a physics simulation, the component needs to have a rigid body on it.
Yeah, that gets me every time.
Yeah. And I just unchecked use gravity because we don't want this thing falling or holding it. But yeah, it totally, like, if I forget about it also. Oh gosh. What the heck? So my sword is dancing for some reason.
Did you make it kinematic?
Oh, I did not.
Classic.
Yeah, there's a lot of like little steps for doing like collision detection. So I think kinematic makes it so that like you can collide with it, but it doesn't like bounce off. So come here, come closer. For some reason, I still can't hit Medusa.
Does Medusa have a capsule collider on it?
She should. Well, I just put a box collider on her. Uh-oh.
That's fine.
Did I just unplug something? Oh.
Classic.
Let's see. So box collider on this. Medusa has a box collider too. Does she
Rigid
also
body,
need
yeah.
a rigid body? They both need one? I thought that just one needed one.
For the trigger,
Oh,
or
just
for
one.
the physics sim,
Oh yeah, that works. So you guys thought that she just like
she was like,
bounced
nah,
away from me.
I don't wanna.
Yeah, so I don't know if she'll come back now.
She's like,
I think she like
she hid behind.
But anyways, like that's how you can get the detections to work. So again, to go over that, we put on 2 colliders and we put a rigid body on each of them. We unchecked use gravity because we don't want these things falling into the ground. We want them to kind of just float there until some collision is detected. Yeah, so now let's actually do this gaze detection part. So what we ended up prototyping a lot of different ways to detect like whether or not Medusa was in our line of sight. We tried some stuff that didn't work so well. We tried some other things that worked out like pretty well. And so like what we're going to show today is like 2 solutions that we came up with. One of the solutions is to check if Medusa is in like the screen space, and the other solution is to draw basically a ray or like a line from the player's eye to like where Medusa's eye is, and then if there is like a clean line there, like if nothing gets in the way, then we would detect that she is in the gaze. You want to add anything?
Well, yeah. I mean, well, I guess specifically, it's that you need both.
Yeah.
Because so what ends up happening is, so the way rendering works is you always draw the furthest object, and then it'll override it with closer objects. So for example, if there's Medusa here, there's a shield here, it'll draw the pixels for Medusa. Actually, yeah, I'm in the screen.
Mm-hmm.
It'll draw the pixels for Medusa, and then it'll, when it sees that the shield is in front of it, it'll draw the pixels for the shield. And that will just override it, so then to you, it'll look like the shield is actually there.
Yeah.
So when you do this, like, is it on screen? It technically is,
but it's covered.
It's covered.
Yeah.
And so you're only detecting it if it draws it. So the raycast is to actually make sure, oh, there's a shield in front of me.
Yeah.
So you need both in order to make that happen. So that's just super important.
Yeah. So you'll see that we're going to create both of those solutions now. So what we'll do is, before we created this Medusa script that controls like her behavior, and that's actually where we're going to be creating like these methods that check if she is within the gaze of the player. Now I want to add this Boolean, so a true or a false, that tells us if Medusa is alive. These aren't like really expensive computations, but I mean, we don't want to be running them if she has already been killed or she's not alive for whatever reason. Like maybe at the beginning of the scene we don't want her to start off like moving around and looking at the player. So let's create that. We'll default it to true, but again, this is just so that you have the option to turn it off later if you want. And what we're going to add are these 2 different methods. One to check like the line of sight, and then the other to check if she's on screen. Both of which are going to return a true or false. So here's one of them, is Medusa on screen. And this, just so that we can get rid of this error, I'm going to put return false. And the other one that we're going to implement is Medusa in, or I guess what we'll say is player. So this is the player, like the VR player, the like Medusa's victim essentially, is player in line of sight. And again, so that this doesn't cause an error, I'm just going to put return false at the end for now. And so the solution here is basically we want to convert Medusa eye point to camera, player camera's like screen space. And then we're going to use that to determine if she's in the screen space or not. So to do that, we actually need to know what the player's camera is. So up here, we can make an outlet for that. Public camera, player camera. And what we want to do to convert the point to screen space, as we'll call this, like we need to make this vector 3 that's going to store that point. We'll call it Medusa point on, like in screen space. And to transform that Medusa eye point into it, we use the player's camera, and we call this function world to screen point. So we feed this a point in the world, and it spits back out to us that point in screen space. And that's what we can use to determine if Medusa is on the screen or not. So we need to actually give it Medusa's position. So for that, we need to configure like some eye point for her. We could give her, or give that function, just this like the transform for this Medusa master game object, but the problem there is that if you look at the screen, you can see that it's actually like centered on the floor. And even if we gave it the point for Medusa's head, like we don't quite want to be detecting her eyes based off of like this point that's in the middle of her head. What we should do is just add this game object, so we can add a cube. We're going to want to size it down, and we're going to use this, like we're going to position it to represent where her eyes are. But yeah, right now it's way too big. Oh, I'm just changing the collider. I want to be changing the transform. And then we can just kind of position this. Looks like it's actually still too big. So that is going to represent where Medusa's eyes are. So let's bring it a little forward and a little bit down. So now that's like on her forehead. That's essentially where her eyes are. And this is just like an easy solution. Like it will be as if we're using her eyes, but we're actually just using this cube. So let's call this Medusa eye point. You have a question?
No, I'm just looking.
Cool. The other thing we can do is if we don't want the cube to actually appear, if we kind of just want to use it as like our own reference point, we can just like click on or off the mesh renderer. But we are going to want to keep this box collider because later on we're going to use it for the line of sight detection.
There was one thing that came up.
Mm-hmm.
So they mentioned on the sword.
Yeah.
For the collision detection, you might want to use rigid body. The detection was collision dynamic.
Where? This one?
Yeah. So instead of discrete, use continuous.
Continuous?
Sorry.
Oh, solid.
Continuous or continuous dynamic.
Okay, cool. What's the difference there? I've actually never changed that before.
So discrete is like every frame.
Mm-hmm.
Continuous is interpolating between those frames and seeing if you get anywhere in between.
Oh, cool.
Continuous dynamic, I think, is for both what you are doing as well as what you're the thing that's moving.
Target?
Yeah.
Nice. That's pretty cool. So let's try continuous dynamic then.
Yeah. I could be wrong
Medusa.
about the dynamic part. I forget the exact definition
Yeah.
off the top of my head.
We'll see later. I think that it should work, and we're always down for suggestions.
But
Right.
yeah, no, like for like I guess collisions with your hand in general, like in case you like swish it really fast.
You want to be doing more than every frame, like
Yeah,
interpolation. Exactly. That's cool. Alright, so now that we've placed this eye point, let's get back to the script that we were making. So we want to give this that eye point to transform from world to screen space. So we're going to make an outlet for that as well. Transform, we'll call this Medusa eye transform. And we're going to feed into this form dot position. Let's see what this, oh, my parentheses is missing. Yeah, so we need to make sure that we link this up in the editor. Let's give it the Medusa eye transform, which is this eye point. We also need to give it the player camera, which you can find in camera rig and on camera eye. You might be able to use camera head too, but for our prototypes we used camera eye. And so once we have this point, which we already do, like we've got it with this player camera dot world to screen point, there's just a few checks that we need to do. So we want to make sure that it's like the z for this vector 3 is positive. A positive z on something in screen space means that it's in front of us. A negative z means that it's behind us. So we can first of all check that Medusa point in screen space dot z is greater than 0. But then we also need to check if the x and y are within the bounds of the screen. So let's do the x first. So we want this to be greater than 0, which is the left side of the screen. We want the x to also be less than the like screen's width, so the right side of the screen would be that point. So we can use player camera dot, I think it's width, pixel width. So that checks again that it's within the x bounds. Now we want to check that it's within the y bounds. And this time we want to make sure that it's less than pixel height of this camera. So essentially, if any of these are false, so if it's behind us or if it's like too far to the left of the screen or too high or too low, we're going to return false. Otherwise, if all of these hold true, then we know that it's within the screen space that we're seeing. So that's like, is Medusa on screen? There's a way to test this. I guess one of the easiest ways, I don't want to have to print to the console. Let's see if they're like, what's the best way to show this to all of you. So if I press play and go to the scene, I can just draw a debug ray. That's what I'm gonna do.
Oh, for like looking?
Yeah, so like whenever it's like in the screen, I'm gonna draw a debug ray.
I mean, you could also just like pull the game view to the side and then just you're showing the forward vector, right?
Yeah. So, well, I mean, like, I have an idea for showing, like, this will be an easy way of detecting, like, if we're actual, like, if Medusa is on the screen, like, I can do something so that we get some visual feedback. So, what we'll do is, if is Medusa on screen, what we're going to do is we're going to draw a ray, like, whenever she is on the screen, between her and the player. So, debug that. Draw array. You remember what the arguments to this are. So we want the start to be Medusa's eye transform, and then the position or the direction. So we're going to do some vector math here. The direction that we want would be from Medusa's eye point, because we're using that as the start, towards the player's eye point. So to create that, Medusa's gaze direction, we just subtract the player's eye transform position from Medusa's eye transform position. So the difference of these two will get us a vector that points towards the player. And I think we also need to give this, a color and a duration. So I'm just putting this here so that we can like use it for testing. We're not going to keep this here later. I just want to show you all that this actually works and debug if there are any problems. So you can see when she's on the screen, there's this, like, do you see that? Like, look at that red line that's being drawn. If I'm not looking at her, which is like right now, there's no line being drawn, but as soon as I look towards her, a ray will pop up. Yeah, can you see the ray in the scene view?
Yeah.
Yeah, right?
That red thing.
Yeah. So there is one last thing that I want to add. There's a slight imperfection with this solution, and I want to show like how we're detecting that. So on Medusa, let's actually go ahead and uncheck her walk inside circle and her nav mesh agent. Essentially, this is just going to make her stay in the same spot. So what you'll notice is that right now I'm looking at her, so there's that ray drawn. So just pay attention to the game view and notice that in the scene view we're drawing that ray. Now, right about now, she's no longer in my line of view. Oh, actually, this looks like it's working pretty well. So this is the point where I'm not looking at her anymore, and we're not seeing that ray being drawn. Now I can see her. The ray's being drawn. Let's see how it goes. Oh, this is working pretty well with the new model.
What's happening?
So I'm just detecting, I'm like making sure that when she's out of my gaze or off of the screen that ray is not being drawn. I'm just like checking what happens at the edges. So I'm not looking at her. Now I do see her. Is there a line being drawn?
Yep. It's pretty solid.
So here's one problem. Is there a line being drawn still?
Yeah.
Okay, so right now I don't see her on the screen. Like I kind of see her like in my peripheral.
She actually is on the screen, like at least in the game view.
Yeah. So the problem is that she is in the game view. But if you tried this in your VR headset, like you would notice that she's like in your peripheral in the sense that like if you look over there, like she would be there, but like you don't actually see her. Like she's like right here. So like there's a fix that we can make for that, which is just that like instead of using these zeros and the edge of the screen, we can use like a sort of a padding. So if you like run into this problem where you're trying it out and you realize that like she's not on the screen but she sort of is, we can just constrain these cases a little bit more. So let's do something like private X padding, and when I was testing this out, like 200 worked pretty well for the X and Y padding, but I guess you can just check like what you find comfortable.
There's also a question here that I just figured we'd answer on stream.
Okay.
So someone asked, like, would it with the ray casting, would it not only detect the shield but also like the environment?
You would need to put like, so the question is like when you're doing ray casting, should it also detect the environment? That's a good question. It should detect the environment because if you have the shield down and she's like behind one of the towers, you don't want her to be in your line of view. So to fix that, I don't know if we have this already built into the environment, but basically like you just want to put colliders on anything that should obstruct the ray cast. This is because ray casts, they're looking for colliders. So if you put a collider on like a tower or something in the environment, then that will obstruct it and stop it from going between the player and Medusa. More of that will pop up later. Any other questions?
No.
All right, cool.
Yeah, I also answered it in the chat, but I figured I might as well.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good question. So to finish this off, I was just saying, like, if you want to add some padding, just create some variable that you find works for you, and instead of checking if x is greater than 0, check if it's greater than, like, this padding variable, and also, instead of checking if x is less than the width, subtract off the padding. And you can do that for both the x and the y. But this, I mean, it's really a question of what works with you. I mean, you had to decide, like, for your game or experience, you know, when she's in the peripheral and kind of in view, do you want that to count or not? We're just showing this so that you have the ability to decide for yourself. So that's Is Medusa on screen. What we need to do now is check if the player is in the line of sight. So again, what we're going to do is a ray cast between the player's eye point and Medusa's eye point. So let's see, there's a few variables that we'll need here. The first thing that we're going to need is a ray that tells us, I always forget the syntax for this, so we need to give it the origin. Let's give it Medusa's eye transform. The direction, we want to give it this gaze direction. So actually, what we can do is just copy and paste this. And we'll clean up the code a bit later once we have the full solution. Oh, I need to give it the position because the eye transform is just a transform variable. We also need to get a ray cast hit. And then now we're going to actually do this ray cast. So Now, physics raycasts return true if you've actually hit something, and they return false if you haven't. So we can put this inside of an if statement. We'll give it the ray that we created. For max distance, what we'll want to do is get the gaze direction and get the magnitude of that. So again, like this vector 3, it's telling us the gaze direction. So essentially pointing from Medusa's eye transform towards the player. But the magnitude of it also tells us how far apart they are. So we'll use that for our distance. Layer mask, not sure why it's asking for that. I always forget the right syntax. I think it might be because I just used the...
Oh yeah, because you used ray. Yeah.
Oh man, I always... So, let's see. Now if I do it once... There are like so many...
You want to pull up the documentation?
Yeah.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, there literally are like...
I think there's like 12 raycasts.
Wait, no.
There's a lot,
yeah,
dude.
there probably are 12.
Let's see. Where does it show it?
Hey, Brian. Going, streaming. Good time.
Going on?
Yeah.
Okay, so origin, well I gave it array. Let's give it the distance. Where do I give it the hit variable though?
Google hit. Or Google out. Or Control F out. Sorry, not Google.
Oh yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Out
That's one of the 12.
So yeah, there's just so many. So I'm going to give it the ray, the hit, then the distance. Ray, hit.
Quick question here.
Yeah.
The player position is attached to HMD position and not the camera position, right?
I think so. Let's check. So we put it on the... Oh, we put it on the head, which... I don't know if there would be much of a difference between putting it on the eye and the head.
So the head is the one that moves and is tracked by the HMD.
We could definitely debug it and find out.
Or which? Sorry, which script is this? I'm just wondering.
Which one?
The player position.
Oh, that's in... No, it's... So Medusa has a link to, like, where this eye position is.
So what did you put here? You put eye position, right?
Oh, yeah, this one.
Okay, cool. So it's the head.
Yep. Right. For now. I mean, if that doesn't work, we can, like, change it around once we're debugging.
Well, no, I think it does work. I just wanted to double check.
Cool. Right,
I actually don't... I think camera rig doesn't work because that one doesn't move.
Okay, well, we'll find out soon. Alright, so this is doing the raycast again from the Medusa towards the player, and then we're populating this hit with whatever we hit. Now, there's one last thing that we want to do. We don't want to return or go into Medusa being in player line of sight for anything that we hit. We want to specifically check that we've hit the player. So one way that you can do this that's just good for a quick prototype is access the game object, get its tag, and see if that's equal to player. So now what that would require me to do is actually go to this eye point, which is where we're drawing the ray towards, or eye point on the player, and just change this to have the player tag on it. So what we'll do again is, if it is in line of sight, we'll draw this debug ray. So Medusa eye transform, case direction, yeah, and I'll get rid of this for now. Instead, I'm just going to call So if she is in the line of sight, we're going to draw this ray and return true. Otherwise, we're going to return false. Is that working or no?
For the debug ray?
Yeah.
Looks
like it's not drawing, right?
No, it's not drawing. Don't see any
Anything
errors
in the
here.
console? Huh. Let's go back through the script then. So we're getting the gaze direction, which is the eye transform position minus the eye transform of Medusa. So that's going to point from Medusa towards the player eye. Our ray is starting at the Medusa eye and again going towards the player. We're checking if we get a hit and if what we're hitting is actually the player. Then in that case, we're going to draw this ray. Really odd. Can't quite figure out why that's not working. Let's make sure that everything's linked up. Camera eye, Medusa eye point, eye position. Yeah, these are where we want them all to be. So maybe there's not colliders on these. That could be the problem. There's a collider here. Oh, got it. So the eye position of the player needs to also have a collider. Like we were talking about before, the raycast is looking for colliders, and you can see that the eye position actually doesn't have one on it. So let's go ahead and add that. Right now it's enormous, so let's make this smaller. Good way to do that would probably be... What's up?
Guess if you had the player tag set, that could be.
Yeah, it's that. The problem is that there's no collider on it though, so it's not detecting the actual hit.
Where did you get the sword, by the way?
It was, let's see. So it's on the asset store. All I can see here is it's called DLNK.
I'll find it. DLNK sword.
Yeah. So now let's check this out. Yeah, so I already see a rays being drawn. So something's happening. Yeah, so now I'm looking at her. That ray's being drawn. Now here's part of the problem why we wanted to also use that is like in screen space solution. If you look at the scene right now, if we're just using the ray like component, like we're drawing the ray right now, but she's not in screen space. So this would actually not work. So this is why we created both of those functions. We need to use a combination of if she's in screen space and if like there's a clear ray cast. So we also want to make it so that the shield can be used to block the view. So if she's there, then put the shield up. That's not stopping it right now. This might be because we haven't put a collider on the shield yet. So let's check that out. We want to see if the shield has a collider on it. Yeah, so the shield does not have a collider. So that's why the raycast was going straight through it. We can put a... I wonder what the best type of collider for this would be. Probably a box
shield?
collider.
You can use a mesh.
A mesh?
For it.
Yeah, that works too. So a mesh collider will actually like form to the mesh of this shield, so you can get it to like fit really nicely. Do I need to make it convex?
I would. You don't have to, but I would.
Alright, let's check this out. So now Medusa is in my line of sight, as you can see from the debug ray. This is the sword, so I can't really block it with that. But where is she? Oh, there she is. So now if I bring the shield up, it stops. So she's in line of sight. Blocked. In line of sight.
Nice.
Blocked.
Dude, that's awesome.
Those two pieces. Yeah, I figured that like showing it in the scene would make it more intuitive.
Yeah.
Alright, so we have these two functions, and to check if the player is dead, we really just need to check a combination of those two. So player is dead if both of is Medusa on screen and is in line of sight are true. Oh. And let me just clean up this code down here a little bit. Actually, I think, is there any way to make this cleaner? We could actually just return this like physics call. So to go through that, what we were doing before is if it's true, we're returning true, and then if it's false, we're returning false. So a way to simplify this is actually to just return the result of this line itself, and then we can get rid of all of this. So this code looks pretty smooth, dude. I think that is the majority of it. I mean, now it's just about adding some like features to this. So let's make it so that we can like actually hit Medusa and like cause her to stop like looking at us. Unless there are any questions.
No, not really. Yeah, I mean, if you have like, I think at this point, like we can just play around with this, and then alternatively, if people have questions that maybe don't even pertain to Medusa, we can also take those as well.
Yeah. Because I mean, the core of the mechanic is here. We
yeah,
now.
Can I play around with it?
Yeah, sure. So actually, let me add one thing. I want to make sure that we can like end the scene out of there. Yeah, man. I had to make that like a lot more loose. So if is player dead. So we don't have like a full game right now. But what I want to show.
I mean, we got the mechanic, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah. So I want to add in like if the player is dead, we'll draw this debug ray, so that they can see this while you're in there. The start will again be Medusa's eye transform, and the gaze direction we already have.
Also, do you know what your IPD is?
It's like 65. It's like average.
You actually know?
Well, I looked and I know that it's like around average.
I've always guessed mine is around like 64, but I have actually no idea.
Right. Should be good for you to start.
Alright. So me and Coach.
You're in.
Oh wait, wrong way.
So we can see that. Oh, Medusa's not moving around. Let me. I stopped it for a second.
Yeah. I was like, and I have a controller again.
Alright. Here we go. Now she should be moving.
Cool.
So he is dead as soon as. Yeah. So like now, because she's in his line of sight, like we have this red thing being drawn. And actually we see a bug here that someone brought up in the chat, which is that we need to put a collider on this tower so that like she wouldn't be seeing him right now. But like yeah, as long as you have the shield up, it's not like the line of sight is obstructed. If we want the environment to obstruct it, we just put colliders on like these towers.
Is she supposed to be like?
I think it's because like once you hit her, it messes up her her random walk. So what we want to add next is like when we hit her, we'll just have her like topple over or something. So an easy
the original version.
yeah. So an easy way to do that is like let's just get a detection for when she's been hit. So we can do on collision enter. I think. Does it take a collision? And we want to detect if she has been hit by the sword. So we can check the game objects tag, like if she's been hit by the sword or a weapon, I guess. So we'll create a weapon tag. And if she gets hit by a weapon, what we'll do is we'll set that she's not alive anymore. And we also want to disable her like her nav mesh agent and her walking, because if she's not alive, I mean she shouldn't keep walking. So an easy way to do that would be to just get the component of the nav mesh agent and set enabled to false. Get the component of the walk inside circle script, also set that to false. So now when she gets hit by something that's tagged as a weapon, she'll just like topple over or stop moving. So we need to tag our sword as a weapon. It's not one of the default tags, so you can click Add Tag, hit this plus sign to add a new tag, create weapon. Now if we go back to our sword, we can tag it as a weapon. So whenever the collider on this Medusa Master gets hit by a weapon, she should stop moving. Where is she? Yeah, so you see that she got hit to the ground. Oh, she's floating now. So we probably do want to
I kind of like that though.
Yeah.
It's just like smack, fly off into space.
The cool thing though is if we hit her from the bottom, we might be able to get her to like fly. Where is she?
Smack. And
So,
gone into space. I like it.
That sort of works.
I like it a lot.
I think that we could even configure the shield to work for like a shield bash.
Yeah.
If we wanted to. It's kind of getting away from the actual story. But if we put the weapon tag on this, that should work too. She's going to see a reflection of herself getting smacked.
Solid. Oh, you know what? One thing I want to add is the particle system.
Oh yeah, do it. And then there's a bug that I need to fix. I see it right there. I just need to stop the coroutine.
Alright, so I'm going to add, because I really like the particle system. So, as part of standard assets, you got a particle system. So we're just going to import that in. And in there is a smoke detection. Yeah, I was like playing with that computer this morning. I was like, I don't know what's going on. I give up. So in here, so where do my particles go? So particle system, prefabs. I'm gonna add the smoke to Medusa's head. Yeah, head or master, or add it to master.
Yeah.
So now we're
just position it.
Oh, it is off in the middle of nowhere. We're gonna reset that. Nice. So we already have. Ooh, that's not in the right spot.
It's not a child of master.
Ah, that would explain it. So put that there.
Key.
Reset.
Probably want to bring it up a little bit because master's.
I'll just add it to.
Yeah, that works too.
Done. Okay, cool. So we can see some smog, smoke, smog, whatever you want to call it. And we'll just make it green because Medusa is green. And up the alpha a little.
Oh, that's solid.
That's like some trippy,
works.
super trippy smoke.
Oh, it's also changing the color over lifetime.
Ah,
that's why. That looks good though.
I dig it.
Yeah.
We can.
Me too.
Whoa.
We probably want to decrease the life of it.
Where's the life?
Start lifetime.
Ah, cool. So we can probably go with, I don't know,
probably
4 to 8.
Even less, probably.
2 to 4. 1 to 2. Yeah, I like it.
Cool.
Nice. And yeah, you could obviously play around with the particles a lot more, but the reason I want to add the smoke in is when you have that shield in, you can see the smoke up at the top, but you don't. Cool. So it's like, alright, I'm protected from Medusa.
I dig that. That's a good touch. I didn't think about that. So, let's see. Yeah.
Someone said you beat her like a baseball.
Dude, this looks really cool. The smoke trailing behind.
Yeah, I love it.
I like it.
It's a little slow. We can obviously update the emission and stuff, but
it looks like it stopped. Oh, it's not looping.
Oh, let's change that. I don't know. It is looping.
Is it?
Yeah.
Maybe it has like a delay then before it starts looping again.
We can drop this down to 1 for the duration.
So, yeah, I see it. There's a lot. Still see it. Yep.
Nice. Up.
Now it's up.
It's probably something with the emission.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it is 30. I was using Smoke Mobile before, but yeah, I'm sure like with some tinkering, like you could get the particles working. But it looks pretty solid.
Let's see, lifetime. Wonder, a lot of times, like in these over lifetime thing, it changes stuff.
I mean, it's probably.
Oh wait, what is this? Particle system
Oh,
destroyer?
interesting. Yeah. Okay.
What the heck is that? I don't want that. Why is it destroying stuff? That might be what the problem was.
Maybe.
So if we play now,
although that was also on mobile, so.
I mean, because it would make sense. Like, oh gosh,
the strokes are real. So.
I mean, it could be like a very important mobile optimization. After they shoot one flare of smoke, they just want to destroy it. That might be what that script is doing. Yeah, it's still coming out.
Yeah, that was. I think it probably just killed the particle
He ran
system.
into the shield and the sword.
And starts floating. Woo!
Alright, so that's that. We can go ahead. I'll just go ahead and keep extending this if people don't have questions.
Or, I mean, you can just jump back into the lab.
I want to get this to like a complete... Or we should at least do the restart thing. Let me add like 3 quick things. So one thing is that there's a bug here. The problem is that we're disabling walk inside circle inside of the Medusa script, but this coroutine will keep going. So a quick fix for that is to actually store the coroutine as a global variable, and then once this walk inside circle is disabled, we can stop the coroutine. So here's our global enumerator, call it walk. We set this equal to walk cycle, and we start this walk enumerator. Then once this is disabled, we'll stop that coroutine. So this is why we were getting an error before. So now once Medusa is hit, we turn off the walk inside circle script, and when that gets disabled, we also stop the coroutine.
And instead of the game over, so someone wants to know, like, anytime you hit Medusa, how would you have like a +1 that pops up and then maybe fades out?
A +1,
so like the text? Yeah.
Okay. So there'd be 2 steps to that. Like first we would, so the question was anytime you hit Medusa, have like a +1 pop up, and like what after the +1?
There's fading, but like, look,
like fade?
Maybe let's just do the +1 because that shouldn't be that hard.
Sure. So let's see. Let me look at what we already have set up. So we can detect when she's hit. I mean, she's already being hit in here. I guess the best thing to do would probably be to create like a delegate and event system.
You could do that. I mean, you could even just do it in this script, right? Just have a prefab in here, and then with the +1, just to simplify.
Just like turn it on, I guess, or instantiate it?
Yeah, just instantiate it.
How are we going to make it float or fade out, though?
We could put that on the prefab, right? Like have a script that controls, like, after, I don't know, 0.5 seconds.
Yeah, that works. Okay. Game object, we'll call this score. So what we're going to want to do is when she's hit, instantiate that score. We're going to have to figure out what type of rotation we want.
For now, just probably put the same position and rotation as the head.
Oh, can I just pass it the transform?
Yeah.
Oh,
wait,
cool.
Really?
Yeah, I always thought that you had to give it the position and rotation.
That's cool. I didn't know that existed.
Maybe that's an update? I don't know. Yeah, I've never knew that either. Okay, so we got to create this like +1 thing. So let me first.
Instead of the canvas, create an empty game object. I found this out recently. And then create a text mesh component on there. I don't know like what's the right way to do it, but like you can just like without the canvas create text, which I think is interesting.
Let's see. Where's this thing?
You have to type in like a word or something.
Oh, it starts off blank, so we'll say +1. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if it's the right way to do it, but it's a fast way to do it.
Can we make the resolution any better?
Yeah, probably.
So that's one benefit of the canvas. I mean, text in VR is just tough.
Maybe just increase the size, the font size.
Font size? Where is font size?
Right there.
Oh, 0. Oh, that's better. So
Big,
now if I
but
scale
better.
this down. So let's center that to 0. I want to call this like a score notification, I guess is what we can call it.
Make it red.
Yeah, good idea. So then I'm gonna create a folder for prefabs. And I want this to be score. So you can instantiate that. And then what we'll do is just like delete it or destroy it after a certain number of seconds. And then we can add the floating component in if we want to make it its own script.
I mean, yeah, we're getting closer to 12, so probably don't have to add it. But this does not like it anymore.
I think it's just because it is not attached, maybe. Let's see. Wait, what?
Oh, just do it as a game object.
Oh, yeah, right.
Classic.
Haha, here we go. So we have that outlet. Gotta make this public.
Nice.
Get rid of this. So now when she's hit, well, I guess what we could do is, yeah, let's just see what happens there.
Yeah, I have no idea what the right rotation is.
Oh, it's fixed. Where did it go? It was there for a second.
Wait, what happened?
Can you hit play again?
Yeah.
It I think it's parenting it with her. Did you see that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, probably. And then she floats away. Hold on. Let's try it again.
Here, I was just like.
Oh, where to the plus? How long does it last for?
I think it only lasted for a second, so we can go for that. It's in the Medusa script at the very end.
I'm just gonna get rid of the destroy, and then we'll see what happens.
Good call.
Smack.
Yeah, so
because we passed transform. This is.
It's not oriented. Oh.
Yeah, because we pass transform, it gets the parent. So if we do so here,
like make something.
Position, and then root. So now we know. So if you pass transform, it parents it. So now this should work.
Like when would we want that?
I can see reasons why you'd want that.
Oh, it's oriented. But it's the right one.
And it's spawning all of the ones.
Yeah, so we just need to rotate that.
Yeah.
Like the other way.
We can leave that as an extremely hard challenge for other people to do. It's not a complicated thing. But I think that was a solid string.
Yeah, it's fun stuff. So we went over navigation meshes, adding agents, reflective stuff on a shield or something else, and then detecting if something's in gaze. So pretty solid stuff.
Awesome work, dude.
Yeah, fun.
And yeah, I mean, it's about 2 hours, so I don't want to keep it too long. But what I will say, because someone wanted me to point this out, is if you have suggestions for other streams, probably the best place to put that is on our website, fusevr.com. And if you go to the forums, and we have a suggestions that I haven't been looking at recently, but there are a bunch of stuff here. You can post it here, and we'll definitely make sure to take a look. This is the first place I look for suggestions about other stuff, and we can obviously the Blender tutorial. So Abdo, take a note of that. A bunch of other stuff here, and it's all cool stuff. So I mean, sometimes we'll do stuff like today where it's just like no one's really asked for it, but I think we all think it's a cool concept.
Yeah.
and other times we'll take it from here, because I mean they're all VR is such a new space that there's like so many things to explore and prototype. So that's really cool. Also, I mentioned this in the chat, but for those who didn't see it, I'm gonna try and see. I have an idea for the stream in 2 weeks from now, but I might put up a poll if there are like a couple options that come up. So make sure to follow us on social, so Facebook and Twitter. I'm probably a lot more active on Twitter than I am Facebook. But other than that, that's pretty much it for the stream. Thanks so much for coming on, and it was super fun talking with you guys in the chat. It was definitely an interesting experience for me, because that's a role flip, but still really cool and awesome to talk with you guys. So yeah, do us a favor, like the video, and subscribe if you haven't. And I know a lot of you guys already are, and I appreciate that a lot. That just helps us know that we're doing things you really enjoy. But yeah, other than that, this has been FuseMan, and this is Hassan.
Hassan. And Abdo.
And Abdo is he exists. He exists. But yeah, this has been FuseMan. We're signing out. All right, we'll see you guys later. Woo!